Yes, everyone, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur, joined by Chris from NUFC Talk TV. He's taking the time out of his day to do this opposition preview with me. And I'll be honest, Chris, this is a kind of a fixture that Spurs fans, I feel like, are very nervous about. We've been absolutely given some hidings by you
Yeah.
guys in recent times. But thanks for taking the time to sit down and do this with me. And my first question for you is, maybe just your original expectations for Newcastle going into the season, and also as well, two-part question, kind of your thoughts on your start to the season so far after the first two games.
Well, it's been a shaky start, to say the least, against Southampton, of course. First of all, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to be on this channel, and you guys got a good thing going, and it's good to see. So appreciate that, of course. Well, Newcastle United has certainly been in the latest stories after the takeover and all that, which is good for us at least.
Mhm.
Um, but this season in particular, the question for fans every season is how close are we going to get to that, to fighting for the title or becoming
Mhm.
a regular top four team, and the window so far is not something that most people are not happy with. um, Lack of signings. We've signed Osula from Sheffield United. We've signed a few players of Lacademos from Nottingham Forest. We've also given up some players, of course, Yankuba Minte to Brighton, which was a guy that I really wanted to see how he would perform in the Newcastle shirt this season. And of course, we had to sell him because PSR is a monster, man, that we can't keep
Yeah.
up with. I don't think you guys have got that problem, but so that's but
Nearly the
we're
opposite.
exactly, exactly. We're dealing with that, but still, I think that we can't make signings. I mean, we're in for 70 million for Margui, for the last 3 weeks, basically. So you can't really use that we don't have money excuse. So fans are kind of divided. Now, about the start of the season, obviously it's just 2 games, but you can kind of see we are not oiled up yet. We're not a or I'm not sure what Eddie Howe wants to play 4-3-3. That's usually his thing.
Mhm.
He never changes. But no, look, it's done well for him. Obviously, qualify for Champions League, and like you said, we had a good experience with you guys at home, which is going to be where we're going to be playing this weekend. But also, when it comes to Spurs, man, we it's give or take. I mean, we kind of you beat us, you score 4 goals against us in your home place. We score 4 at our home place, so I think we're a pretty even matchup. And I don't think Newcastle are relaxed whatsoever
Mm.
facing players like the quality that you guys got. First of all, you got a good goalkeeper.
Mhm.
Vicario is really good, and the legend up front, Son, is something to keep an eye on. So the start of the season for Newcastle is certainly, I wouldn't say happy about it. Obviously, we didn't perform well against Bournemouth either. We could have lost it. It was a. I don't know if you know about it, but there was a call at the end where um, it could have been a handball. It was called a
Yeah.
handball afterwards, but other people said it should have been allowed. And if that was the case, then obviously we would have lost away against the Bournemouth team that everybody, all Newcastle fans would say you should beat this team. And the
Mhm.
same thing for Southampton at home. But we ended up drawing, of course, the 10 game I'm sorry, the 10 player thing, Shar had to be
Yeah.
sent off, unfortunately. But still, if you're gonna be competing for Europe, man, you have to play with 10 players. You have to know how to adjust. And we
That's
certainly
true.
didn't do that. But um the jury's still out on Newcastle, of course. I mean, we don't have Europe, unlike you guys, but so we should be able to qualify easily. We got a cup game tonight. We'll see how we perform there. It should be one of our objectives as well. Trying to get a trophy back in the cabinet. That would be good. But yeah, man, the jury's still out on us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what kind of Spurs fans have been saying is that they're a bit perplexed, bit confused by your guys' start to the campaign. It hasn't been the most convincing, but we're also well aware that you guys are probably waiting for eventually you guys to start waking up. And it does feel like that this is an opportune sort of fixture for you
could be.
guys, where a big club is coming over to your side of town, and also you guys have done very well against us when it's been this Newcastle away fixture for Spurs. So we're a bit fearful that you guys might wake up at the right time against us. And we've also had kind of a strange start where against Leicester City, we felt like we were the better team, but we did end up kind of losing the run of ourselves, losing our mentality. We dropped points in that fixture. And then against Everton, I think Everton do sadly look like one of the worst teams in the Premier League this season, and we just kind of shucked them away. But I'm not too sure if that many Spurs fans are going to take that Everton result and then automatically think that that means we're going to walk up to Newcastle and end up doing something similar. It's kind of all up in the air, I think, for both sets of fans. And it sounds like, you've confirmed maybe what certain Spurs fans have said about Newcastle, where they're just not really too sure whether you guys are as good as maybe what you were last season or previous seasons, and if maybe there's going to be a different sort of tone or a different sort of roller coaster for you guys this year. And you do have that kind of weird situation with PSR. Like you said, you got rid of some of your younger, talented players like Minta, who does look very good, by the way, and I
Yeah.
think was probably someone that you were probably hopeful to see kind of get some minutes. The future of Isak, the future of Bruno Guimaraes, who I'm a huge fan of, by the way. I actually did a video a long time ago about how I thought that was one of the best signings any club has ever made, I think, in a long time, because I think he's truly a world class midfielder. But yeah, it's a tough one where also Eddie Howe, by the way, maybe move on to him as a question. Thoughts on his time maybe at the club, his tenure there, and also maybe kind of the links to him with the England job. It feels like over the summer it was made to look like he was about to leave Newcastle this summer.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the questions. A lot of fans asking for him to come out and say, "I'm not leaving," which I wasn't a fan of because those were rumors. I mean, the fact that he would go and entertain every rumor, that's not I mean, he probably has better things to do. But I mean, certainly a good manager. If you're looking at it from the England English manager's perspective, he's
Yeah.
probably, if not the best, one of. That also might say the level and quality of English managers out there. It might put that into question. Now, look,
Mm,
I think Eddie is a good manager. Whether do I think he is somebody to take us to the promised land and win titles? I'm not sure yet because the jury's still out. He hasn't never won anything. So he was at Bournemouth. He did get them promoted. So I guess that's a trophy. But to what Newcastle want, I don't think
mhm,
that's one of the standards. We like to say that we haven't won a trophy since the '60s. So we're not. I mean, we could count the championship, but I don't think that that's what we want to do really.
mhm.
So the jury's still out on him. The fact that the point with last season and this is the reason why fans are don't know what's happening is simply because we've had a lot of excuses to hide behind, um, to be able to say, well, we don't know if this wouldn't have happened, then maybe we would have had a better season. Hence the injuries we've had. We're like top three in injuries, which we
Yeah.
about if you listen to Newcastle fans, we might it sounds like we had the most amount of injuries. We were third, I think, behind. I think Manchester United might have been one of them. Chelsea as well. I believe we did this show as well, but I can't remember exactly. But so we were in the top team with injuries. What I'm trying to say is that yes, we did have them, but I think we also made mistakes on
Yeah.
key games. There was one against AC Milan where we're playing the Champions League to stay in the Champions League. I think if we drew the game, we could have stayed in the Europa League. So, but we didn't do that. We lost the game in two counterattacks, and so at the end of the day also is about the guys on the pitch and the manager on the sidelines. So, if we were good enough to beat PSG at home, if we were good enough to basically beat them away, there was a penalty that shouldn't ever been called against us, of course, that Mbappe
Yeah.
scored. Then, if we were able to do all of that, if we were to beat Manchester United for the Carabao Cup away at Old Trafford, if we were to eliminate Man City from the Carabao Cup, if we were to do all that, you should be able to well, you did all that with injuries,
Yeah.
so you should be able to perform. So the same thing with the transfer window. PSR is an issue, everybody says, but then again, I keep going to my same point. You're in for 70 million for a center back. That money excuse can't be. It can't be all of it. You can put it in the equation, but it just can't be the solely reason
Mm,
as to why we don't get players or we didn't play good last season. So I think that the reason why we have not turned or fans have not turned on Eddie. Well, first of all, you got to be grateful. He got us away from relegation the first season around, and then the next one he got us into Champions League after 20 years. So
yeah.
he's got some credit, but of course our owners now PIF are very to the point type owners, and
Yeah.
I think you got to prove yourself, and I that's why I do believe this season is he has to get us back in Champions League. with no
Mm.
other tournaments going around, or maybe I guess we wouldn't have to qualify if we win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup. That would be amazing, but you have to go out there and win them, which at the end you're going to have to compete against City, Man United, and all those teams. So and you guys probably.
Just a quick follow-up on Eddie Howe. Do you just feel like by maybe what I'm trying to gather what you're saying, you think he's maybe just taken the team as far as he could, and it might be up to a different manager at this point in time to see if he can take Newcastle even further? Because, like you say, he brought you guys back to the Champions League, but once he got there, wasn't really that convincing, and some people, like you said, gave him excuses, but you don't think all those excuses were really totally valid maybe at the time with either injuries or whatever it might have been, and maybe Eddie Howe's kind of reached his limit basically with Newcastle.
Well, I'm not there yet. I like to keep things in balance and not just go one to one side. I try to make a rational decision, but I mean, I have no decision to be honest. I just, the way
Yeah.
for me, the way I'm thinking is, just he still has some credit. He can still use the injuries as a sort of reason as to what. Look, we ended up, where we didn't expect, just a two spots below fourth last season. Or I think seventh we finished, so three spots below fourth the previous season. So, and if you had all those injuries, then well, I guess you can give him another shot. I think it's this season is the one that we can
Mhm.
judge on. Remember though, um, we are kind of following the same steps of Manchester City. And Mancini was their manager for a while before Pep got there. You see, and Mancini had managed, I believe, Lazio, Inter
Yeah.
Milan, and so he managed bigger clubs than Bournemouth or Burnley, like Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
So if I just look at what other teams and managers and how they've gone about their rebuilding process, it always tells you that the first manager is not the one. But so again, you can look at it that way, or you can say, well, Eddie might be the Messiah, and he might be the Alex Ferguson of Newcastle. Who knows? But
Yeah.
and like I said, I think this season is key. If we don't finish in Europe, I think it's going to be really tough
Yeah.
to hold on to him, or
Well,
he hold on to his job.
thank you for your honest and I like you said, very balanced answer. This is a tough one maybe for you to answer. I don't think you would have maybe a clear one on it, but it feels like Spurs and Newcastle in recent seasons have been really handing each other some real spankings, some real hidings
Oh
in
yeah,
either situation, whether one's at home or the other. It's just been some big score lines and not really that close of matches. Do you think there's an explanation behind that? Why is it that both teams and both sets of players seem to be really sparked up and really, almost animated for this sort of game? Do you think there's a rivalry that's kind of brewing between not really exactly the clubs or the fan bases, but maybe between these two sets of players? Because that's what I've also noticed. It seems like both sets
yeah.
of players seem to really not like each other in these games.
Well, yeah,
Can you
no,
explain these hidings?
it's hard to explain, of course. I mean, I, if I look at it from my view, that I think both of these teams um, basically are in the same boat.
Yeah.
Fighting for Europe, fourth, fifth, sixth, and I'm sure on a good day, you can try to maybe push for the title. I think you can say that about Spurs more than Newcastle. Well, clearly, because of recent history, and you've been in the battle longer than we have. The last 20 years for the Premier League hasn't been able to happen, of course, but
Yeah.
you guys have been there in that battle. But as of recent time,
Similar
uh,
ambitions. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, as of recent time, I would say both of these teams know that these are my contenders. We got to beat these guys.
Yeah.
So it would be the same probably in my opinion for Chelsea at the moment. I don't think they're there to fight for the title. So maybe Chelsea's in there, maybe a Man United. Those are the teams to me that are going to be fighting for those European spots, and I think that's what it is. Now look, the scoring is unbelievable. I mean, we did beat you 6-1 the other a couple of seasons ago, so that's good. But you gave it right back 4-1 last season, and then a year ground, and then I had some Hotspur fans, you know, telling me how much better Tottenham was, and I get it. You have to take that pill and swallow it if you get beat 4-1. But I also said when we go to St. James's Park, it's going to be pretty much the same and the opposite. And
Yeah.
it certainly happened the same way around. Basically, it just won. You
Yeah.
got. I think you guys didn't score, but it was 4-0 instead of 4-1. But
We got spanked.
Well, because I think it's just these 2 teams know who they need to compete against,
Mhm.
obviously. Um, and I think that's gonna continue, to be honest, for a good while. One thing that about you guys, I really like Ange Postecoglou, obviously, um, one of my criticisms of him was the this high line that, that
Yeah.
that's that's difficult at times because when you leave everybody open. I think that's what happened in that game with Newcastle. There was not it was a lot of space, and Van de Ven is top notch when it comes to running. Period for a center back. But how many times can he do it in the game? And I think in that game in particular, there was banter and images of him on the ground and Isak scoring. Of course, from our side, you're going to see that obviously, and but I think he was put in a disadvantage,
Mhm.
in that game in particular, and so, but I think it's going to be tough. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, man. You
No,
know,
interesting. You kinda did answer my follow-up question on what you thought of Ange Postecoglou, and you seem to think that, yeah, you seem to like him as a guy or as a person, but you do feel like his tactics are, would you call it naive, just too risky? Like, what would maybe be the word to describe it for you, when it comes
but
to his
see,
tactics?
uh, I like attacking football. I think personally, I do, and I think, well, that's what he
Yeah.
proposes every time. But the thing is, you also have to be smart about it, and I don't want to look. I'm not a manager. He is. So me saying he is not smart, it doesn't make sense, right? But what you see on the pitch, he has to know that he has to cover himself unless he truly believes, that, you know, the more scores you go, the better,
Yeah.
and that's how you win. Which, I guess that's a tactic, but you're not going to be able to score all the time or as many goals as you like all the time. And
Yeah.
maybe that's one of the things that I've heard around from Tottenham fans criticize as well. But at some point, you have to know how to play ugly, if you
Yeah.
want to win something. And well, that's one of the positives that a lot of people took from Newcastle, beating Southampton and also getting a point away against Bournemouth. That it wasn't pretty. Football wasn't there. We're not there when it comes to trying to play what Eddie Howe wants, but at least we had the personality to just keep the score, maintain the advantage, and just get the points basically.
Yeah.
And because you're not going to play pretty all the time,
Oh,
and so you got to get some games. So that's what I think. I don't think Ange is a bad manager. Obviously, I think to be fair, you guys weren't in a good position before he got there, and once he got there, things seem to normalize. If I'm not mistaken, what do you think?
no, you're right. No, and I think
So,
that's really well put actually on Ange, and that's actually a criticism I've had of him is I don't see sometimes enough game management in certain situations. It feels like it's just gung ho, the whole time. When maybe we are in a situation where we do find ourselves 1-0, 2 goals up, and we could try to just control the game a bit more instead of just continuing to leave ourselves open at the back or continuing to kind of make the game so sort of end to end. There could be a bit more control to it, and I think that's actually fair analysis. And there is kind of that love of I do actually kind of enjoy sometimes winning games ugly. We had Jose and we had Conte before, right? And those were some of the
uh,
kings of doing
oh
that.
yeah.
And I actually didn't mind, that period of winning things ugly. It's just Spurs fans are, really, kind of they identify with trying to play this attacking style of football. They really seem to like Ange Postecoglou for that because they brought back or he's brought back that sort of brand of on the front foot progressive type of style of play. And a lot of Spurs fans feel like that's what is the embodiment of our club. It's what we've always tried to
Mm.
play like. And he's brought that back to us. But I agree with you. I think there does seem to be also that need for that sense of caution as well. Well, sir, really appreciate your contributions. Just final thing from you, a score prediction.
All right. Look, I think it's going to be tight this time around. So I think both teams have a lot to prove on this one. If I'm not mistaken, when you played against Leicester and who else did you play against?
Everton just recently.
Everton. So yeah, in my humble opinion, I think this is the toughest rival you've got this season as far as right now. Obviously you're going to play against City and all those, but um, and so I think both teams have a lot to prove. So I'm going to say, man, I want Newcastle to win, but I'll just say 1-1.
All right.
1-1. Hope I'm wrong and we win, but you got to be realistic at times. I think you guys got a lot of talent. You can't leave Son alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's our menace. He's our assassin. That's what I like to call him. I've
yeah.
gone for a Desmond for this one, a 2-2. I think it could
Yeah,
be an exciting game, but I feel like Spurs this time around, because of the recent hidings, they will try not to lose this. At least I hope they don't, and we don't end up having to be embarrassed once again going up to your place, because it has not been fun to do these live streams with Dave
yeah,
and my partner and being embarrassed like that on camera. But I hope that it's at least a point. I hope we can go for three, but I'm going to say that Spurs settle with a
yeah.
point. I think we'd be all right with that. At least the majority of Spurs fans might be. I could be speaking for too many, but I'm going to settle for a point for a 2-2 as well. And you've gone
Yeah,
for a 1-1. Well, thank
that's
you,
right.
Chris. Please, everybody, check out NUFC Talk TV over on his YouTube channel. He's also taken the time, like I said, to do this recording with me. So do thank him in the comments below. Smash the like button, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.